Hi everyone, and welcome to another speed build. Today I'm in Glimmerbrook building what's supposed to be an antique shop slash flea market with a special kind of secret area just for the Spellcaster residents of Glimmerbrook, which is why I've called it the Hidden Treasures Antique Shop, which I know isn't very clever, but it works in this case, so we're gonna go with it. And this is kind of an odd build. The bar that was originally here, because I did build this where the bar Glimmerbrook was, that bar was supposed to be like a converted ranger station, so I kept that same kind of feel for this build, but I made two different buildings and each one has sort of a different look to it, but they are based on pictures I saw of ranger stations, and I was trying to keep that sort of Pacific Northwest look that Glimmerbrook has. I think it is supposed to be based on the Pacific Northwest. I could be wrong on that. But my thought with this was that this ranger station that I'm building here, or this building that I'm creating here, was the original ranger station. And then once that got to be a little bit too small, then they built another building next to it. And that was used as the ranger station. And this was used for something else. But then for whatever reason, these buildings were no longer used as ranger stations. So someone came in and bought them and use them as shops. So the bigger building, which I will start on building shortly, is the one that's supposed to be the antique shop. And this building here is supposed to be more of the flea market area, because I thought it'd be kind of fun to have this area where it looks like Sims are just selling random things that they found or made. I was trying to give it that feel of bazaars where people sell crafts that they made and also sometimes stuff from MLMs that they're a part of. So yeah, it's got that kind of a feel to it, although it didn't really work out exactly as I hoped it would, because I did use those selling tables that came with City Living, and I was hoping that if I put items on them, I would still be able to mark them for sale, and that, customers would be able to come in and buy them normally, but putting items on that table makes it so they can't be marked for sale, but your Sim still can come over and tend those tables and then sell what I placed on them, so that's a good way to make your Sims a bit of extra money. I'll probably also leave one of those tables empty. That way if you have stuff that you want your Sim to sell, you can easily just plop it onto that table and sell it from there. But I'll talk more about that whole market area once I actually get to that point. So here I'm working on building the second building, and this one is a lot more simple than the other one. The other building is definitely a bit prettier. This one I was thinking was something that was maybe built in the 70s or 80s, like that's what this kind of style reminds me of, like not quite mid-century modern, but I feel like it kind of has some bits and pieces or some influence of that style on it. So it is newer, but it's not exactly super new. And I don't know why, but the look of that second building also gives me some Sims 3 vibes for some reason. I don't know why, but it feels like something in the Sims 3. That might also just be the lighting in this world, because Glimmerbrook has a bit of a different lighting to it. Like it's kind of a greenish light, I would say. I don't know if that's what it actually is, but there's something about the lighting in this world that is a bit different. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking these roof items or these awning items from Jungle Adventure and sticking them under the roof here, because what I did was I stuck the roof, like just made a one tile wide bit of roof and stuck it along the edge of the building and then just extended it out. That way I could have it go a little bit lower than the wall height on the first level, and because of that I wasn't able to stick a column under there, like under the outer part of the roof to look like it's supporting it. So I had to figure out something else to use to give the look of there being some sort of support for that roof. And luckily when I sized that item down a few times, it fit under there really nicely, and I also just think that looks really cool. It did make it a little bit of a pain in the butt when it came to furnishing those areas, but I think it was worth it because it looks really neat. I think the roof looks better like that than it would have if I had just placed like a whole roof over that area and wouldn't have been able to extend it down so far. Just because when looking at buildings sometimes, I've noticed that you'll have the main piece of roof and then you'll have a smaller piece of roof coming off of it that's sloped a bit less steeply, like what I did here on this building, where you have the main roof over the building and then you have those more shallow roofs off to the side of the building. And a lot of times what I've seen is that those smaller roofs will continue down from where the original roof was, so the end point of that roof will be lower than the end point of the main roof. But with how roofs work in this game, you can't really do that. You know, if you just stick a regular roof over something, it's gonna end at the same point as the main roof. Hopefully all of this makes sense, but a way to get around that is to just place a narrow roof and then pull out the eaves of it. That way the eaves can go even further down. But the downside of that, as I mentioned earlier, is that the columns won't be able to be made short enough to look like they're supporting the roof, so you have to kind of figure out some kind of workaround to get around it. But right now I'm working on the landscaping, although there isn't really a ton with this build. There's just a few garden beds here and there with some hedges in them and some flowers. And I also got these really cute flower boxes out of Debug and stuck them under a bunch of the windows in this building. And then I also found those hanging plants and stuck them on the front of this building. I was trying to give these buildings kind of a bohemian hippie sort of a feel. I didn't really go super all in on that, but that was kind of the vibe that I was trying to give these buildings, and I think it turned out really cute. As I was building this, I was kind of imagining who I saw owning the shop, and I envisioned it as this older woman who was a bit of a hippie. She's definitely going to be a spellcaster since there is that secret area in this build that I mentioned earlier. So maybe kind of like an earthy witch type, or maybe a couple, but I definitely kind of like, they definitely kind of give me this earthy sort of hippie vibe. And here I was taking these string lights from Toddler Stuff and trying to stick them under that area. As I said earlier, those awnings did make it a little bit annoying to try to get in there, but I really like that look of just having that covered path going towards the back of the building and then seeing all those string lights going through it. I just think that's really pretty. So I do get around to it eventually, but there is a patio type area behind the antique shop building that has a grill. It also has a bunch of picnic tables in it. So it's just sort of an area for Sims to come here and hang out, because I also see this as a community space, like it's somewhere that people really like to come to and gather, you know, especially with that market area that I was talking about. And that was also sort of inspired by the upcoming Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, and I'll get to my thoughts on that a bit further into the video. But originally, like, I had a few scrapped attempts at making this build. Like, originally I had kind of a different vision for it, and I want to go with this design, just completely ditched it where it was going to be an antique shop slash bar, but it was still going to have this kind of secret area with stuff for spellcasters in it, but then I wasn't really feeling that concept. And then we learned about the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, so then I thought maybe it'd be kind of cool to give it a marketplace sort of an area to go with that. And I think it was something that worked a bit better with this build than making the second building a bar, although that would have been kind of cool. But then you have an issue where you would have to, you would really only be able to use one part of this build. Like, it would either have to be a bar or it'd have to be a retail shop. But with the marketplace kind of a thing, you can still use that even when the build is set as retail. But as far as Eco Lifestyle goes, I know in my last build that I was saying that I was very on the fence about this pack, and I was really worried that it wouldn't turn out to be that good and that it would feel very lacking. But I did watch a live stream that the Sim Gurus did, I think last week, and I am just a lot more optimistic about this pack after that. Like, they are incorporating things in this pack that I did not think they would. They are, it really does actually feel like it's going to be a full pack, and hopefully that stays true once I actually get this pack and play with it. It does end up being something that is really neat once you actually have it. But yeah, I'm really optimistic that it will turn out to be a decent pack. One of my biggest worries when I first heard about this pack was that it wouldn't be very replayable, and it would be very specifically focused on how you clean up Evergreen Harbor. Like, there was a certain path to clean it up, but that is not the case. Like, there's different ways you could choose to play with this pack. You can try to make the world greener, or you could just let it be very industrial and messy. And it seems like rather than the world changing by you just going out and picking up trash, it changes based on the things that your Sims do, like the choices they make, what materials they use in their home. And you can also change it by, interacting with the community. And there's the whole community space thing, which I think is really cool. And that community space lot, I don't know if that's exactly what it was called, but that lot kind of reminds me of the seasonal festival lots in the Sims 3 Seasons. because that's a lot that kind of changes based on the season, and there's a special marker that you could use, and you basically just kind of like pick out where things are going to go depending on what festival's in town. So it's kind of like that in a way, where you can build a lot to, you know, be like, here's how it looks when it's a makerspace, here's how it looks when it's a community garden, and it can switch between those, I think it was 4 different types. I think that is really cool, and that's definitely something that I'm going to try to build once I get this pack. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's just a lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to this pack, especially with builds. Like, they also put apartments into the world, which I was not expecting to get apartments in worlds other than city living, but I'm really glad that they're doing that, and I hope that's something that they continue to do in the future, because I like how they're not the super tall high-rise type apartments that we got in city living. They're more of just the kinds of apartments that you'll see in smaller towns. So I love having that variety, and I hope in future packs they incorporate different kinds of apartments into different worlds. I just think that's really cool. I also like how the different flooring and wallpaper and objects have eco-friendliness rating to them, and there's also a fire resistance rating. I don't know if that comes with the pack or the patch, because we are also getting firefighters in the game through the patch, so I don't know if the fire resistance comes with the patch to go with that. But the engineer side of me does like that material properties are actually being taken into account in some way. I think that is also really cool. So what you put in your Sims home does impact their eco rating and impacts how eco-friendly the world is. So I like that they are adding that cause and effect into the game. Like, it does make this pack feel like something that is really overhauling the game, like actually changing it. Because as I said earlier, my worry was that this pack wasn't going to do. It was just going to be like, oh, you clean up Evergreen Harbor and that's kind of it. But yeah, I'm really glad there's something that feels like it overhauls and impacts the game some way. We're also getting the updated build system with the new patch, so depending on how much water and electricity your Sims use, like different portions of the bills will go up, like it's all separated. I think that's really cool. That's another way in which there are some more consequences added into the game. I mean, it's not exactly consequences in the way I think a lot of us want, but it is something, you know, because that is something that The Sims 4 has been lacking. So I like that what you have your Sims do directly impacts what they pay in bills. It's not just how much they have in their house. We're also getting an updated inventory with this patch. And also, how could I forget ladders? I am really excited for ladders because that just unlocks so many possibilities for building. There's just a lot of good stuff coming with this pack and this patch, so my tune on this has definitely changed from when I first heard about it, but I think part of the problem with Eco Lifestyle was also that we haven't gotten an expansion pack like this before. Like, we've got some packs that kind of feel like they had some eco-friendliness aspects to them, which is also part of why I was initially apprehensive of this pack. But we haven't gotten an expansion pack like this so far, so it's really hard to know what exactly was going to be in it. Because, you know, with pets, you know, you're going to get pets. With seasons, you know, we're going to get seasons. You generally know what the gist of the pack is going to be. And I mean, you know, Eco Lifestyle is going to be about eco-friendliness, but it's something that you have less than I had less of an idea of how that was going to be incorporated into the game. But I could go on and on about this pack for a bit longer, but I do want to get back to the build. So here I'm working on the marketplace area, and I'm just finishing it up. We've got a bunch of craftables on the tables, like, and just stuff that you find. Like, I was trying to put out stuff that your Sims couldn't just buy from the catalog. And as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't able to set those items as for sale on that table, so your Sims can't just go up and buy it normally through the shop. But yes, they can also come over and tend the table and sell it. And I am also planning to, as I think I said earlier, to leave one of those tables empty for you. And there is also that art display there, so you can come there and sell paintings. I was also trying to make it so the items actually slot onto the tables, but there's a few things that I just kind of hovered over the table using the Move Objects cheat. I think the only table down there I really did that with was the one with the items from Jungle Adventures, because I thought of that as a table where someone was selling some baskets that they made and some dolls that they made, but the slots on those tables are just very unorganized, and that bugged me, especially with those larger baskets. I did not like where they're slotting at all, so I just kind of floated a few of them, which might be a bit of a problem, but you can always just I think you should be able to just grab them and stick them in your Sims inventory if that becomes a huge issue. And I don't know if you'll be able to do that. Yeah, you actually might not be able to do that once you actually visit the lot. I need to playtest that. Like, I did playtest this lot a bit, but I still need to check that. I might actually just get rid of those ones that I floated before I even upload the lot, so it's not an issue. I was trying to be careful of how I use the move objects to keep the slot and what I set for sale to minimize issues as much as possible. But here I'm working on the upper level of this building where there are some bathrooms and just kind of an area where you can sit. And I was trying to figure out what to do with these walls, and rather than doing a bunch of paintings, I thought it might look neat to take those crafts from Seasons and put up on the walls to make it look like things that kids in the community had drawn, just to kind of add to that feel of this being a community space. So yeah, I really love that as a detail, but we're done with the marketplace building, so now I'm on to the antique shop, and I had a lot of fun with this building. And I wanted to have this older look to it. Like, I didn't want it to feel like something that was freshly renovated, so we just have the paneling. Like, it was the original paneling that was in the building, and they didn't really have enough money to go in and fully renovate everything and make it look all nice and new and perfect. I think that just kind of adds to the feeling of this being an antique shop. Like, I wanted to have the feel of that kind of musty antique shop rather than a place that was new and trendy. So here I'm just adding a whole bunch of clutter to this checkout area. And I just remembered another thing that's coming with the patch that I'm really looking forward to. So we're also going to have the ability to alt place doors and windows, because right now when placing windows you can only hold alt and place them vertically, but now we're going to be able to hold alt and just place them wherever you want on the walls, which I am so happy about, because there's been so many times where I wanted to use a 2 tile window on a 3 tile white space and you can't center it, and it's really annoying because you can't use exactly what you want. So yeah, I'm just really happy that we're going to be getting that, and this build took me a bit longer to finish than I would have liked, and part of that was because I'm kind of getting into that whole thing where a new expansion pack is coming out, and I'm just thinking about how much better it would be to have the things that we're going to be getting with that and patch to build with. So it's kind of like making my motivation to build go down a little bit, because I was just thinking about how great it would be to be able to alt place windows and doors amongst the other things that we are getting. But while I'm excited to build this pack as soon as I get my hands on it, unfortunately I'm not going to have a lot of time to work on builds and videos next week, because I do get early access at some point next week, but I might not have anything up during that early access period because things are actually really busy with work right now. I might be able to get an apartment up, because I was thinking I could try renovating one of the apartments, because that'd be something kind of quick to do. So hopefully I could do that and get that up during that period. But as I said, things are very busy with work right now, and in the past what I've done is I've taken a day off work when an expansion pack releases just to have more time to be able to work on videos and play with the pack, but I wasn't able to do that this time because, as I said, how busy things are with work, and I may actually have to travel for work next week. Like, I might have to stay overnight somewhere, so that's really going to take up time that I would have to make videos. And I was kind of hoping that would work out to where I wouldn't have to travel next week. Like, they're kind of discussing the timeline of the project I'm working on, and I was like, please let it work out to where I'm not traveling next week. But unfortunately, it looks like it's going to line up to where that's happening. And I can't say, can I not do this next week? Because, like, I have a YouTube channel, I gotta make videos for it, and there's an expansion pack coming out. Like, I don't want to be like that. Like, I can't be like that. Obviously, my job is my first priority, so I've got to work around that. So I just want to give you all a heads up on that, so you're not wondering why everyone else is putting up videos on the pack, and I'm not really putting out much of anything. But I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous about the whole having to travel for work thing, because there's the whole pandemic going on right now, and I know there's like a lot of people who are regularly working in stores and are essential workers during this time, and I'm in a fortunate situation where I've been able to work from home this whole time. But this is kind of like my first time like having to really be around a lot of people since all this has started, so I am very nervous about that. Fortunately, I don't have to fly, I just have to drive somewhere to a place where a lot of people work. So I'm gonna do my best to stay as safe as possible and hope that I don't catch anything. But I will probably be a little bit of a nervous wreck for a few weeks after getting back. But yeah, that's going on. But anyway, I'm gonna get back to the build now. So we've already worked on that front area of the shop. So that's kind of like the dining room furniture show area. I was trying to create these loose show areas in this build. You know, like you kind of have that area which shows all the dining room stuff, and then this area over here which has some living room stuff like couches and end tables and all of that. And then upstairs there's a clothing area and then some dressers. I thought that kind of worked together near each other. And then there's even a book area. So I was thinking maybe that was kind of like a mixture of old books for sale, and maybe they even get some new books in, like just kind of something to boost their profit a little bit. And then upstairs is also the secret area that I've mentioned a bit throughout this build. So as you probably guessed, that's an area that has a bunch of stuff from Rebel Magic. Like you can buy, well, turns out you can't actually buy the potions, but there's wands up there, there are familiars up there, there's brooms up there, there's a cauldron up there. So I'll talk more specifically about that once we get to that point, but I thought that'd be something really neat to add in, just to tie in with the fact that this is a build that's in Glimmerbrook. So here we are working on the living room show area. So we've just got a couch set there. We've got a hutch, which maybe that should have been in the dining room area, but I thought it kind of worked there. You know, this is kind of a very eclectic shop. Like everything's not all perfectly organized. Like I wanted to have this kind of feeling of chaos. Like, you know, like I was looking at pictures of antique shops and I saw that a lot of them just felt kind of chaotic. Like you just had all the stuff piled up everywhere. So I was trying to give it that feeling. But at the same time, I had to be very mindful of what I did with the move objects sheet. Like I couldn't cram things in too much, or else I worried that Sims wouldn't actually be able to buy stuff. And I did do a bit of playtesting because I was worried how it would work with all placing furniture like I did. Like whether if Sims bought it, it would come back, like it would restock in the same spot in the same position. And fortunately it did, and it seemed like it wasn't really a problem if things were placed closer together than they would have been able to be placed without the move objects sheet. So that all worked pretty well. But if I did have stuff that I just kind of floated over the table with the move objects sheet, that would not work. So all of the stuff that I floated like that, I didn't mark for sale because I didn't want your Sims to have issues where they would try to buy something and then they couldn't. There might be a few hiccups here and there with that. Like there might have been some things that I missed, but I tried my best to be diligent with that and make this lot as playable as I possibly could. So here I just mismatched the furniture a bit because, as you may have seen originally, I had very matching sets of furniture, but I didn't think that really went with the feel of the store. So I like the kind of more mismatched look that it has here. And now I'm just sticking a whole bunch of artwork on the walls, so this is just various paintings that they can sell. I do like the idea of lots like this for storytelling purposes. You know, like if you want to have your Sims buy furniture, then rather than just buying out the catalog, you can have them actually go into a store and shop for it. Although, I mean, it's maybe not the most functional thing because these items are going to be marked up, so you're going to end up paying more for them than if you just bought them out of the catalog. But, I mean, it's kind of something cool to do. Like, I think in Let's Plays in the past, I may have done that. I don't really remember. I probably did. But we're pretty near finishing up the living room area. I also replaced, I also added a bunch of chandeliers throughout here and used those as the light, because at first I had those saucer lights. But I also looked at pictures of antique shops and saw that they had a bunch of different chandeliers all over the place. So I like the idea of having it look like they just have all of these antique chandeliers throughout. And it's something that I imagine would be set for sale, but I didn't set it for sale because I actually needed to make sure that there's lots there, or lights there to properly light this area. And I didn't want to have it to be where all the lots could be bought and then the place ends up being very dim if they're all bought up and then not restocked in time. I don't think that's something that would really end up happening, but it was still something that I wanted to take into account. And here I'm just adding a little for sale sign, just kind of, you know, saying that those items are for sale, obviously. But here we're onto the bathrooms, which aren't very exciting. We just got the same flooring, same wallpaper. We've got toilets, of course, sinks, of course, fake soap dispenser, fake paper towel dispenser, you know, just your standard basic bathroom stuff. And again, I was trying to make this feel like a bathroom that wasn't super duper nice. And something else I wanted to do that I forgot to do was add what looked like use those wall decorations from vampires throughout to make it look like nicks in the wall. You know, like the walls have been damaged a little bit from furniture being shoved up against them. I'll try to remember to go through and do that before I do the fly-throughs and upload this build. Like, there are still a few things I need to check and do with this build before uploading it. But I think that's about it for the lower level here. Oh yeah, I was adding that sign for a bookshop. I thought that was kind of cute to indicate that if you go upstairs, there are books for sale. And we've got a couple of doors there. So what I did with that secret area, it's not so secret, but those rooms back there are going to be where the spellcaster stuff is. And my thought was that back when this was a ranger station, those were originally the offices, but they just converted the offices into the area where they keep the spellcaster stuff away from everyone else. So I ended up covering one of those doors with a bookshelf, and then the other door, I got some wood plank items out of debug and made it look like they were covering the door. Kind of like they're saying, oh, don't go in here, like there's something wrong with this room, but then the spellcaster people are in the know and they know what's there. You know, like they can teleport. I don't know if spellcasters can teleport in this game, but you know, they can use some kind of magic to get through to the room without disturbing the wooden planks, and everyone else is just like, oh, guess we can't go in there. You know, like they're kind of slick about it. They have some way of getting in there without being detected. I really thought that was a neat idea. So right there, we've got the clothing area. I just kind of added some of those clothing racks that we got with Get Famous. So I was kind of thinking that as vintage clothing that they've gotten donated or buyed. Like, I wasn't sure if this is a store where stuff's donated to them or they procure it. Maybe more so that they procure it. Like, it's not like Goodwill. So that's just various vintage clothing that they found. And we've also got some mannequins. So I stuck them in clothing from vintage glamour stuff. And then here we've got those dressers that I was talking about along with more lamps. And then here we've got some end tables. So this is like furniture for your bedroom. I would have loved to have fit more stuff in here, like have more sections, but I only had so much space to work with. And when I was first building this, I thought this was a lot of space here in this antique shop. But once I actually stuck stuff in, I realized that it wasn't nearly as much space as I thought it was. So here's the book area. So we just got some shelves, we got this table, and just stuck some stacks of books on this table here, and then I also stuck some stacks of books on the bookshelves. Not all of it was able to be marked for sale, but some of it was, and I can't remember if they buy from those book stacks, if they buy just one of the book, or if they buy the whole book stack. I never really played too much with the whole, like, just selling object side of Get to Work. Like, when I did retail with that pack, it was mostly just, like, selling art and selling bakery, because I do really like using, like, I think, like, in my personal opinion, I think the best thing to use the retail for is to sell things that your Sims make, rather than stuff that they have to buy. Like, I think there's more value with that. And I also look, like, another thing I think is really cool is that you can make a store to sell the stuff that Sims knit with. I think it was Nifty Knitting, that one. Yeah, so I think that's going to be another cool thing that your Sims can sell in store. And then there's also going to be the whole Plopsy thing that is kind of like Etsy. But here we're on to the secret, or maybe not so secret, because there's probably a lot of spellcasters living here, but we're on to the spellcaster area of this build. So we just got a whole bunch of potions stacked on the shelves there, and I was thinking that you're able to sell the potions, but you are not. I was not able to mark this for sale, although your Sims might be able to just swipe them. Like, you might be able to just drag them into your Sims inventory. That's another thing that I need to check. But yeah, we just got them on the table there. Add that little chest under the table. Thought that was kind of neat. And then here we have familiars. They can actually buy the familiars, so there's at least something they can get. They're unfortunately not going to be able to buy the wands, because the wands just snap in kind of weird spots. You'll see shortly, I stuck a table out in the middle of the room to put the wands on. And the way that the wands snap onto the table looks very disorganized, very sloppy. And it just looked really bad. Like, I don't like how where some of the slots on these tables are. So I ended up just manually placing the wands so they look a little bit neater. And unfortunately, that means that they can't be bought, because as I said earlier, when you float items, it doesn't work to where Sims can buy them. So I mean, if you want to, you can always just rearrange them and make it so they actually slot so that Sims can actually buy the wands. But just for the aesthetic, like the purpose of it looking nice, I didn't do that. So hopefully that's not too much of a problem. We've also got brooms that they can buy. And then that cauldron is also marked for sale. So in this room, we just got the cauldron, we've got the brooms. I also added some more potions into here because I wasn't really sure what else to put. There's not too much more to this build though. The only things that I still haven't done is adding those wood planks to the door. I actually forgot to do that until I pretty much finished everything, and then I remembered that was the thing that I meant to do, so I just went back and quickly got some footage of myself doing that to put into the video. And I also added some outdoor furniture to the front of the building because I thought we needed a little something extra out there. But yeah, other than that, there's not really too much more to this build. So as usual, if you want to download this, there will be a link to do so in the description. There will be other stuff in there, how to find it in-game, and that's going to be it for me. So hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
Just hold tight, we're up at the moonlight, believe in the magic. On side, we'll make it feel just right. Just look at that bright light, believe in the magic. And we can save you from your past. This bond is always gonna last. When nothing else makes sense, just dance. What you gonna do? We're doing it all. The feeling is so. Maybe you got me. Believe in the magic. We're doing it all. The feeling is so. Maybe you got me. Believe in the magic. Maybe you got me. Just you in that baseline. We're way past sunshine. Believe in the magic. Alright, step into the moonlight. Get into that good time. Believe in the magic. And we can save you from your past. This bond is always gonna last. When nothing else makes sense, just dance. What you gonna do? We're doing it all. The feeling is so. Maybe you got me. Believe in the magic. We're doing it all. The feeling is so. Maybe you got me. Believe in the magic. Maybe you got me. So, baby, you got me. Oh.